BeastNet podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeastNet.
Hey everybody out there in BeastNet land. Today you got Brother Boggs and I'm talking with Ed from Frontline OCR, and we're talking about his upcoming event here on the Local Flavor Show where we talk with race directors. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for asking. I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, no, it's always a great pleasure to get race directors on and talk about what's going on out in the world right now. The last few months, our show's kind of focused on mental health and getting through the COVID pandemic. But this last month, we decided now that races are back up and running that we need to get focused on getting the local race and our hashtag race local friends back out there. And you guys are hosting an event here in about a month over in Illinois. So
yes, sir.
Figure we better get on the horn and talk with you. So tell me a little about yourself. Who's Ed? Are you?
Well, I'm one of the race owners, directors of the company. So myself and my partner, he and I worked in law enforcement together. He's still there. I just retired. So we decided to start up Frontline, and you know I'm a former LEO, and that's what the race is all about: first responders, military, and now with COVID in the essential workers, that definition is actually expanded a little bit more. But you know, we're trying to recognize all those individuals.
So what got you into obstacle course racing prior to being a race director?
You know what? It was interesting because I was watching television one night and I watched an episode of I think it was NBC or ESPN, and they were showcasing Spartan racing, and they had a segment where they were interviewing a young lady named Amanda Sullivan. And anyone who knows about Amanda Sullivan, she had a real tragic background and has been dealing with adversity, disability, and has conquered and overcome a lot of these obstacles. So I saw her doing this cinder block drag with two of them up the mountainside. And the interviewer asked her, so, well, Amanda, you're only required to carry one. Why are you dragging two? And her response was like, well, I'm in so much pain all the time that one more block isn't going to make a difference. So as soon as I heard that, it triggered something in my mind that I could do this. If this individual has the will to do this and she is experiencing disabilities, that I, who am fairly able-bodied, can get out there and do it too. So I went online, found the nearest race for Spartan, signed up, and the rest was history. Now, it segued from there as I started doing these races. I met a lot of veterans on the course, you know, and after talking to them and befriending them, you kind of hear the similar storyline that they had come back from active duty overseas, having PTSD, alcohol, drugs, suicide, marriage down the drain. So these were common threads that were coming up. But the similar aspect of the story was the fact that OCR saved their lives. So I began to think about that, and I shared it with my buddy, and I said, listen, here's something that we could bring attention to, because there isn't a single race out there that's dedicated to frontline people, military, or first responders. So, and it's saving people's lives. So why don't we create a race that honors all of them? Because, you know, a lot of people come back from overseas and they get into the service industry. They become police officers, firefighters, paramedics. They continue their civic duty. They continue honoring, they continue giving. So we wanted to give something back and acknowledge them and recognize them for the sacrifices that they're making to allow us to be able to do the things we do. So that was the whole genesis for Frontline OCR.
Sounds like an amazing idea coming from the background of law enforcement yourself, and then expanding it out into something where people can get out there and experience the obstacle course races. Amanda Sullivan, I've actually been following her for a while also. She was just recently made firefighter. I don't know if the report you saw on her, I think was that before she had her leg amputated and was still using the...
No. This was, before the amputation. Yep, absolutely.
And now that she's running with a blade, she's moving and feeling a lot better. And she was actually able to make fire department here very recently.
Really?
Yep.
That is outstanding.
So eventually we'll get her on the show, and maybe she'll catch us. Hey, Amanda, we want you.
Absolutely. You know what? She's the type of person that If you have a pulse and you have a heart and you are determined and you see someone who can do that, it's amazing how that can trigger motivation in other people. And that's some of the experiences that we have with the veterans that do our race, some of them are disabled. And when you talk to someone on the street or a friend is like, oh, I could never do that, it's too hard. You just point to this example. Here's an individual who's given up something, part of their lives, and lost something, and they're able to accomplish and conquer these obstacles. So if they can do it, you can do it. And that's basically our motto, is just get out and do it.
Yeah. Do you guys work with Oscar Mike or Enduring Warrior or any of those
We
guys?
do. We've done some work with Oscar Mike in the past. They've supported us and come to our event, and we've promoted for them as well. They're a great cause, and we've sponsored some of their games that they've had. And this year, we're actually partnered up with Operation Enduring Warrior. So
Okay.
we have a promotion where we have a discount code out there available for them, and then for every use of that code, we give back to them. And with the more entries that come in, the bigger the number becomes. So it starts at 15 and it'll go to 20, 25. And we like to give back to that organization.
Yeah, that's a real good group there. They talk about how when you go overseas and you go into battle and you go into war and you come home, you may look normal, but a lot of times you're broken inside, and that's what you're really working to overcome. And getting out and doing these races for a lot of those guys, yeah, it kind of reminds them of the battlefield, but some of them need that to cope with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's that exhilaration. I mean, the people don't talk about that aspect, but being in law enforcement and being in a career where you have life and death situations, you truly feel that adrenaline dump and that feeling of being alive. For that split second, you feel that you're alive. And that's really hard to capture when you're back in normal life and you're looking for that high again. And I think that's what obstacle course racing does in general, is that you get that adrenaline dump, the endorphins are pumping, you've accomplished something tremendous, and then you're now ready for the next obstacle course race. So you're looking to sign up. And that's kind of what I noticed the trend with these individuals, is that they would go to these events, they would meet people, they would connect with the community, and they would be ready for the next mission. And because they want to recapture that feeling of mission, of camaraderie, the struggle. And so that was all something that really appealed to us. And we figured, let's bring this to the forefront of the community and let people know what these individuals are experiencing by giving them a taste of Frontline. So that's sort of what the whole niche for us is, like replicating some of the hardships that individuals would experience on the front line with extra gear, equipment, just being under relentless pressure the whole time. And that's sort of what our race is about.
So how many years have you been doing this race?
Our first race was 2017, so this is our fifth race coming up.
All right, and you guys are just doing the one a year, or is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
one a year is really all I can manage, because it comes down to myself and my partner doing the work. So as anyone who runs obstacle course races, unless you're one of the big companies where you can hire people and you have a huge budget, we're just trying not to lose money. I mean, I had to dip into my retirement fund to get the company started. So right now my objective is don't dip any more into my retirement, because I've already retired and I don't need, I can't afford that. So, we just donate what we can and make sure that we pay our overhead and continue going. So my wife calls it an expensive hobby. I call it an expensive mission, but it's something that we really enjoy doing. We love hearing the testimonials of people who come to our race and who become fans of our race and supporters of us. So, we're very grassroots.
It's good to hear that that you've been able to have such an expensive mission. The fact that you view it as a mission is truly probably the better way of seeing it, because empowering people to get back out there, especially LEO or other frontline people, has been a real tough thing for a lot of them to integrate into regular society and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you guys working out of a fixed course, or do you
Yes,
move
we
around?
do. Well, the last three races have been in Byron, Illinois, and we have a really good relationship with the landowner there. So at the moment, we don't see any reason to change it up. It's a great location. The terrain is incredible. We can manipulate it in many ways to change up the course or add new elements to it. If it's a rainy day, then the course itself becomes an obstacle because it is just mud. Plus, we have the woods and the limestone cliffs that we have to ascend in certain parts of the race. So it's a pretty scenic and diverse venue.
As far as this year for your guys' I guess COVID changes, have you gone out and done some research and figured out what all you're gonna have to do to overcome that?
Yes, actually, it's funny because we there's another local race that we support, Highlander Assault. They just had an event, and they're having another one in September in a couple weeks. So we're kind of piggybacking off of what they're doing, but really we're following the CDC guidelines, as social distancing as much as possible, smaller waves, less standing around during the festival area, and if you are in a festival area, you have to have a mask. We just have to be smart about it. I mean, unless everyone's, unfortunately, testing is not readily available, which would eliminate a lot of these issues. So we have to do the best we can under the circumstances, and we simply can't cease to function. We just need to take precautions, because every day you can walk out the street and get hit by a car or suffer a heart attack or something. So I mean, there's risk involved in everything we do, and we try to minimize those risks as much as possible. So, handling COVID in a very similar manner and being smart about it, I think is the best we can do, the best anyone really can do. There's no guarantees.
Yeah, it's all about that acceptable risk factor. I was talking with Chad, I don't know, yesterday, the day before, and he was saying that their Dark Ages event, the one that you're referring from a couple weeks ago, they still have zero COVID traced back to theirs. So they're still real proud that it was a clean event and able to be put on without spreading COVID out there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, he and his crew are blazing the trail here for us. So as we get back into the normal society, normal way of life, so we're following them very closely. They've shared some documents with us and best practices, so we're definitely going to adopt that. So at the very minimum, with the two of us, we have this continuity in how we operate our races. And he's a great guy. He's a fellow LEO. So I respect him tremendously, and some of his crew are also LEOs. So we have this common bond, and we help each other. So the race local theme is very strong amongst our races.
Yeah, that's something that out here on the West Coast, we've generally only had a couple in Washington local races. We got a bunch down in Oregon, but for some reason Washington has been a very hard market to have the local events in. Next year, we're actually, one of our hosts is the race director of an event up in Port Townsend, Washington, which is just about as far northwest as you get before you leave the country.
Oh, wow.
But
very high north.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun next year, and we'll be up there building with her and everything. So let's talk about your race. You're talking about limestone quarries that you have to ascend and some other stuff. What can racers expect when they get out there?
Well, you can expect a relentless barrage of obstacles. So we have over 30 obstacles. Any natural feature that we can incorporate into the race, we will incorporate it. So whether you're crawling, you're jumping, you're climbing, there's always going to be something there, a lift, a carry, a drag. And actually this year we're going to be incorporating like a boot camp theme throughout. So you may have, instead of a conventional obstacle, you may come to a boot camp station. And at that boot camp station, maybe you'll have to do 20 pull-ups before you proceed to the next obstacle, or some type of a cinder block carry, or we've got some really cool things. So we're trying to make it unique and always bring up the game, because people have seen our race. Some people have been doing this as our fifth race. So we have to continue evolving, and we have to continue, bringing new challenges. And for newcomers, it's a great baptism by fire, because if you can get through Frontline, and those people who do, that they find that the other races are just a little bit easier. So they really appreciate the fact when they earn that medal at Frontline, that they really earned it. I mean, that was no cakewalk. Whether you walk the course or not, you've got to go through that gauntlet of over 30 obstacles and terrain.
I'm still waiting for it to load, but you guys run elite heats or anything where it's mandatory completion?
It is. We have 3 heats that are mandatory. So we have the Special Forces, and the Special Forces is a heat where you have to wear 16 pounds of body armor. And our sponsor, Condor Outdoor Supply, provides us with the body armor, and it's 16 pounds, and you have to complete each obstacle mandatory. You can have as many chances as you want. You could be there unlimited times. We've had racers at some of our obstacles, no kidding, an hour and a half or longer. at every race, there's always an obstacle or two where there's a line of special forces going over and over and over, and you can see them relentlessly trying to make the obstacle, and you see them in tears. Their hands are bloodied because they were at the monkey bars for an hour and a half, and if they can't get through it, they drop the vest right there, sort of like the band. So it's vests over bands for us. So it's kind of an ominous feeling when you are in special forces and you come up to an obstacle and you see a pile of vests laying there, because you know that that's where a lot of people gave up and they couldn't make it. So that's a mandatory completion for that. We have our endurance heat, which is mandatory completion, and that's 4 hours, unlimited laps, how many you can do within that time frame. But again, it's mandatory completion. And then we have now our Heroes competitive wave. So now that's a wave that's dedicated to first responders, veterans, close family members of these individuals who race, and they also have mandatory completion with podium opportunities in those 3 waves.
Yeah, that's it's funny. Mandatory completion versus penalties has kind of been something that we've gone back and forth here at the podcast about. And my personal opinion is mandatory completion is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
One of my first experiences when I was out racing, probably 4 years ago, was back when I think it was terrain race. They used to have money, and you had to do mandatory completion. I came across this gal that was an elite racer that was on her 5th or 6th time trying to get through the Tarzan, excuse me, the Tarzan ropes.
Oh yeah.
And she went from 1st place to 10th place right there on that one obstacle. And she was in tears because she was going to finish it, but she couldn't believe that something that simple cost her 1st place.
Yeah, it's humbling. It's a humbling experience when you face that. And hats off to those people who are doing the special forces, because if you've never trained with, people have used weighted vests, but a plate carrier with a solid plate is a game changer, because your flexibility, your mobility is completely altered. So yeah, I have a great amount of respect for those individuals who do that.
Yeah. Personally, I just do it with a ruck, with the ruck plate in it. So I know that little bit of mobility loss on your back. But one of the other guys that we run with, he'll train wearing a plate carrier, and you can see him with the front. He mm-hmm. doesn't have the ability to drop down and do burpees, push-ups, or any of that stuff as easily as someone just doing a ruck. So.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's funny you mentioned about the burpees and such, that a lot of races do have that as a penalty. If you can't complete it, then you do burpees. For our open waves, it's not mandatory completion, but if you opt out of it, like say you can't do it or you don't want to do it, well, then you have to at least do something there. So we designed an exercise called the 911. Then the 911 is symbolic of obviously the catch, 911 emergency, but the number of repetitions is 22. So it's symbolic to the 22 lives that are lost by veterans through suicide each day in the United States. So if you can't do the obstacle, then, or you choose not to do it, then you at least have to do 22 911s.
That's an awesome thing to remind people about. We work with Stop Soldier Suicide and mm-hmm. More Heart Than Scars, which, More Heart Than Scars is primarily for helping adaptive athletes through races and whatnot. But a lot of our focus outside of that has been, for the PTSD and the 22 a day. Till Valhalla project's another one that I've been working with too. And, these guys, they do all these things to try to bring awareness to it. And it's just, events like yours where we kind of celebrate them coming home, mm-hmm. I think helps them survive longer in this crazy world.
Absolutely. Anything we can do to help them into, reintegrate and have somewhat normal lives is the goal.
Yeah. So as a race director, what, aside from COVID this year, what have you kind of come across that's been a real challenge for you, just in learning, or what's some of the biggest life lessons that maybe you could pass on to the next guy to help them out?
Well, I think that if you're going to start up a company like this, then you really need to be prepared to make sacrifices, whether it's monetary or just time and dedication to it. You better be prepared to that, because it's not an easy thing. It's not like putting on a 5K. and you just run. There's a lot of moving parts to it, a lot of variables that are known and unknown until the last minute. The biggest challenges I think for us as a local race, and it's something I'm sure Chad would probably agree with, is the fact that we are competing against bigger companies. And the bigger companies, just by virtue of being around longer, having more dollars for marketing and advertising, will get a slew of people, whereas for us, we have to fight for every customer that comes in. So for us, customer service has to be there, having that personal touch, and trying to get the word out as much as possible without breaking the bank. Your marketing is huge. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles, is trying to get people, even people who know about our race, but they're so diehard in one particular brand that it's hard to convince them to try something different. And that's, the people who have done other races and come to us, we wear this as a badge of pride when they cross the finish line and say, that was tougher than this race. And this is so hard, hardest thing we ever done. So those are the types of things that make us feel happy, that especially for avid racers, for them to come across and say that this was a difficult race. You've done a good job when you have people coming off the course making those comparisons.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you ran into it at all last year. Some of the major brands were having real problems with their dates and kind of changing them around quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the local races that we work pretty closely with, their events originally were on dates that a national wasn't in town, and then the national changed their date, and so we changed the local date, and then we had to change it again because the national changed it again. It's almost like they were following us.
Well, that's the thing, is like you just never know. I mean, these big companies can block your dates by hosting a date and just popping a race up right at that in your same 100-mile radius to you, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's too coincidental that it happens, and you're mentioning it too, that this kind of happens where a race comes up and strategically it's at the same time that you're trying to do yours. So for us, we set a date, and if it conflicts, it conflicts. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't be chasing dates for these people, especially people like us who have, we have schedules, we have to work. This is not our job. This is just something we love to do. That we just can't keep chasing other dates. So we set it, and hopefully people will be honorable enough and realize that the market is big enough to share. There's a variety of opportunities for everybody.
Yeah, the team that we used to work with was always the one that got all the Spartan biggest team, and
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who brought a race up here, they always got the biggest team, and that's the group that we started putting on a race. Us and them and a local company were putting on a local race, and that's the one that we swear Spartan was chasing us because they knew the biggest team was hosting their own race.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens. It's unfortunate, but I guess that's the business model that they tend to follow.
Yep. You got to dominate.
Small races, we have to do something different to carve a piece of the pie out.
One of the things that's always kind of come up, you started to touch on it, was racer retention, getting them to come back in the following years. For a lot of race directors, that's kind of been a tough thing for them to do. You'll have one year where you have a bunch of people out, and the next year, like, oh, well, I did that.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that? Or what have you used?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the fact that we come up with new ideas on the course, or we bring in other, one of the interesting things that we do is we sort of model it like OCR Worlds, where we will have local race companies, local race groups host obstacles at our race. So we give these people an opportunity to bring an obstacle. They can design it. We'll supervise the build of it. But what it does is it gets some skin in the game. It gets them to bring other people out to see it. And just by default, and it's a really cool after effect, is that each obstacle becomes more difficult than the next one. So everyone is trying to outdo their obstacle, which conveniently, it makes it more competitive, and it makes it harder for the racers, which is good. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I think that like Chad's race and our race do well, is that we have different obstacles. It's going to be different than what you might see at a bigger company race. It's not a standard, blueprint that's followed every single time. We come up with some very unique ideas, and we ask our community, the people who actually support us, to come up with some ideas and bring it to the race. And we get good support from that. And I think that's sort of the reason we do tend to do well with our retention of our customers is that we not only treat them like customers, but we befriend them because we go to races, we see them, we're online, we're Facebooking. You know, you are involved and you're following them as they live their lives. So you're part of them. So you're top of mind. They're just not a number for us. You know, that's a personality, a person we want to know and we want to have a relationship with. I think that separates us, I think, from the bigger companies.
That definitely sounds like a great business model to get people to come back.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. I mean, our friends have been really good to us in supporting the local race. I think a lot of them just get fed up with the fact that the bigger companies don't need to do that, so they don't care. And if you don't want to come to their race, that's fine. There's another 1,000 people who don't know anything about that race. They're just going to show up because of the fact that that's a name brand.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the racers out there, they just follow those big companies. And when they announce the end of their seasons, there's a hashtag OCR is dead that was trending. It's like OCR is not dead. And that's part of why we decided to start talking, reaching out directly to all you guys, the race directors of everyone who's still putting on races, because we'd rather, instead of saying OCR is dead, how about we race local and we come out of 2020 OCR strong or OCR stronger,
That's a great hashtag. Do you mind if I borrow that one?
Google it, you'll see it. It's actually something that Julie Wolf and Russ Blatt and Bud Gear have actually put together. Coalition of local races, which maybe you want to reach out to one of them.
Oh yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you saw that, but we're actually a partner of it. So I kind of talk about it sometimes. I try not to during live interview, but
I gotcha. I totally get it.
But no, and the whole point is that this year, OCR is not dead. OCR is getting stronger. OCR is getting local, and that's what we need to do. And we've pretty much decided, myself and the podcast founder, that we're going to focus the rest of this year on just race directors, just race local, and we want to get to the point where we're actually doing a race director a week on top of our regular show. So
that'd be outstanding. I mean, giving people that opportunity, that exposure is phenomenal. I think it's what the industry needs. I mean, the industry does need diversity, and that's really what it comes down to: options, opportunities. And as I mentioned earlier, there's enough people out there. There's enough customers, enough racers to support all of them. And it might even make them better.
Innovation makes everything better. And, the more competition you have, the more innovation you have. So the more small races. And like you said, when you get those local clubs bringing out their obstacles, they're competing to see who, like you said, can be the toughest obstacle, the most innovative, something that'll be memorable. And that's what the sport needs, is more innovation and more memorable events.
Yep, I agree. I think otherwise you're basically just taking your followers for granted.
And, again, not to knock the national guys, but they're tearing it down and building it every week. And that's why it doesn't matter what city you're in, you kind of know what you're going to be racing. The hills change and the mud changes a little bit, but you still have the same 18 to 25 obstacles.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's a business model that works for them. So, I mean, I'm in no way ever putting any company down. That's just their business model.
Yeah, and it works.
That's how they do it. Yeah, it works. So you don't have to mess up a recipe that works. All we're saying is that, hey, there's other options too. You can do them both. You can race in the same 2 races in a day. Because there are some people who will do that. They'll go to one race and go to the next one. Sign up for the later heats.
Yeah, we last year in 2 days did 3 races in 2 states. So yeah, I know all about that.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
And then next year, because of the mess that happened this year, I've got a bunch of Spartan deferrals. And so I've got any trifecta weekend that they have around me, and pretty much any trail race I'm already signed up for, because they all deferred out of this year.
Oh yeah, that's true. They pushed all to 21.
Yep. So getting back to you, I keep getting off subject. I'm a bad guy like that.
It's an organic conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So your event is October 5th, right?
October 31st.
Oh, where did I get the 5th? I don't know.
We're on Halloween. So that's kind of that's another thing, is that because of Halloween now being impacted, because who's going to go door to door? I mean, very few people. So We do have a kids race. We do allow, we do encourage people to bring their costumes. Let's have some fun. Let's wear your most outrageous costume on the course, and let's get some good photographs and some good memories going, because a lot of things were sacrificed for 2020, but I think we could try to make the most of what we have, and have a little bit of a party.
No, that's awesome. Let's all get out there and dress like our favorite superhero or something, right?
Absolutely. We had a group last time, because this is we did 2 races in 1 year once, but it was just way too much work. So we pared it down to once a year. So the one time we did do it was during October. It was close to Halloween. So the reason I mentioned this is we had a group of Ninja Turtles race. They were all dressed up like them, which was really awesome. So we're hoping to see them come back this year.
That's great, and your timing is perfect for that. And it's your 5th year. That's where I got the 5th from.
Yes, that's right.
That's my bad. But so October 31st, over in Illinois.
Yep, Byron, Illinois.
Byron, Illinois. So how do people find you on social media, websites, all that good stuff?
FrontlineOCR.com is our website, and you can find us on Facebook at Frontline OCR, Instagram, Frontline OCR. We try to keep it pretty simple.
Seems to be the best way to do it. That way you're not remembering 8 million passwords and usernames, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you said they can use the donation code for Operation Enduring Warrior. If they can go out there and find that.
Yep. You know what? Let me pull it up right now, and I'll share it.
Because, not to just go and take money out of your pocket, but you know what? I'd rather see as much as we can go into those guys, because those guys come out and run these events in full gear and help adapt to athletes through the races. And some of those guys, they work real hard to get through those races.
Yeah, they do. And that's a testimonial to their grit and their mindset. And it's all about, being in the right mindset. So that's sort of what we want other people to see, follow their lead. So that code for Operation Enduring Warrior is OEWTFS25. And it's a 25% discount, and we donate back to the organization that way. Another way that we support first responders and veterans is, if you can't make it to the race, we do have a donation page that goes to fund those individuals who we donate races to that are veterans, first responders. So it's called Operation Sponsor a Hero. It's sort of like when you're at a bar and you find out someone's a police officer or a firefighter or a veteran, you say, let me buy you a drink. Well, here you're buying them a race. And that's how we basically fund the Army recruits who come out, or the active duty guys who come out and support and do volunteer work. We fund them with these donations. So we provide them a race entry. So someone who's in need, there's a guy who's like in a bad way and they can use a race, we want that person to be found, and we want them to come to their race, and it's not going to cost them anything, because it's being sponsored by those people who are supporting, the front line.
So do they just reach out through the Facebook page to connect with you and say,
if you go to the website and you go to the registration link, there's on our Run Sign Up page, there's Sponsor a Hero. I think it's on the left-hand side, and there's a tab there that you can hit, and then you can make any type of donation. You can make $1, or you can pay $65 for a race entry. So that's a really low race entry fee, lower than the other heats. So that someone could donate a race at that particular moment.
And then for the heroes to reach out to you and connect with you?
Yep, they could reach out to me. If you know someone, a lot of people don't come to us directly, so we actually solicit that by posting online, Facebook. Hey, we have four race entries just got paid for. First come, first serve. If you know someone who's deserving of a race and needs it and can benefit from the experience, here's the code. Reach out to us. We'll give them a code, and they get a race.
That's awesome. That's what people need, really, is just to get them out there. Sometimes it'll be someone that needs it, and they don't have the money, or they can't find the time. And it's like, here it is. You need to go. Let's take away all the obstacles and get you on the course.
Absolutely. You said it perfectly, and that encapsulates what we're doing with that, is that there are people out there who we could save their life by one experience, and let them reconnect with some people who are supportive and can understand what they're going through. They may not have gone through it, but at least they could be empathetic to it, and they may connect with a group of veterans who they can continue to network with. It's a lifeline, basically.
Yeah, the relationships that are built out on course are lifelong relationships, and you get a couple of those guys that are, they could just be a couple guys with PTSD. They're out on course, they connect, and now all of a sudden they're friends for life.
Absolutely. We've seen that. We've seen a lot of friendships be developed through obstacle course racing, which is one of the most amazing populations and groups that you can. I've never met a group of people who are so positive and so they have this can-do attitude, and they go to these really difficult events and they overcome them and they're ready for the next one, and they're actually training and preparing for them. So not only are you doing something positive, but you're regimented because you are training and preparing for these events. So you're changing your life almost completely by being involved in obstacle course racing.
Yeah, exactly. I love obstacle course racing just for that fact right there, because, myself, I've lost about 40 pounds. Our founder and host, he's lost over 80 pounds this year, training and focusing. And next year we're going to be doing competitive racing instead of just open. We're going to run everything twice, once in a competitive heat and once in an open heat. Mm-hmm. So we can compete and still have that race community going out with the open heats.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the one thing for me is I wish someday that I could get and race in my race. It's just that we're so busy with build and then race day. You have to be on point. You've got to be putting out fires. And then if you do the race, it's a taxing race that you're going to be worthless to take down because you're just going to be exhausted. So it's one of these things where if we ever get enough people to help and volunteer, that it would allow us an opportunity to get into the open waves. And that's where I really want to be, as I want to run with the regular people and, just get to know them, experience what literally walk a mile in their shoes. We put up these courses, we test the obstacles, they're awesome, but to actually run the whole gauntlet from start to finish is what I would love to do.
One thing that I found for that, talking with a couple of people and the races that we helped put on last year, mm-hmm. We ran last, did the trail sweep and got an opportunity to run your own course.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
So, you might be a little bit worthless when you get to the end of it as far as trying to do tear down. I don't know what your design is, if you can come back out the next morning and do tear down, or if you just got a tear down registration for the night or what. But that might be an idea on a way for you to get out there and run your own course.
Yeah, it all depends on if the course owner is doing a motocross event the next day, like a practice. So we have to get everything out of the infield at the very minimum. So we try to tear that down right away.
So anything that you'd like to share with the listeners, either about yourself, about your race, or about just some words of advice, things to live by, however you want to look at it?
Well, here's my word of advice is never stop training, because you never know when you are going to have to overcome an obstacle. So it's always good to be physically and mentally prepared to do something like that. In the career I had in the past, it paid off being ready, because you just never know. You can't be complacent. Something can happen at a moment's notice, and you need to be ready to react. You need to be able to function under pressure. So that's one thing. And I would urge racers to come out and check out the local races. There's a lot of good obstacles out there, a lot of good race companies that are putting small events on. Give them a try. You never know. You might enjoy it and you might come back. And you're giving them an opportunity, knowing the insights of what race directors have to go through. I think that's one of the things that people don't realize, is that how much work and effort is put into hosting an event. And if someone's going to go through the trouble of doing that to put on a really good event, and they're putting it on for a good cause, come out and support. Come out and support the people who are protecting us to allow us to do these things.
Hopefully throughout the next year with the local flavor show and getting things going with that, we'll be able to highlight a lot more of what a race director goes through and what your guys' lives are like for these smaller local events. And then in 2021, BeastNet, we're going on a road show, and we're going to try to hit as many local events nationally as we can.
Well, that'd be awesome. We'd love to host you. We've got a place here for you if you want to crash. You want to do some building, come on out. We could use the volunteers.
That's definitely something I got to get good at. We just tore down our obstacle course in one town and moved it 15 miles. And I found that pretty much everything that we had to tear down was not usable again. So it's going to be a complete rebuild of what we had. We got a lot of wood,
wow.
a lot of good wood, but like anything that was crossboards or anything, it was just too much time in direct sunlight. They didn't paint it every year, so it's gotten rotten. So
Yeah, that's a great point you mentioned. We've got to get out there and do some maintenance work on some of the obstacles that we have out there permanently. So yeah, that's very good advice.
all right, well, I appreciate you coming on the show today, and
I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, no, it'll be great if we can make the race next year, close to Halloween. It's kind of a toss-up. Most years I'm up in Alaska for their permanent fund distribution. And this year, because of COVID, we've got a complete travel ban at work. So I'm stuck. I can't even get on a plane for personal travel.
Right.
But hopefully by next year that's open, and I'll be hopefully back by the time you host your race, and maybe Mike and I can fit that into our road show.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? The thing is, our original date was May 16th. So I think we're going to go back to that May date. We only pushed it to October because of COVID. So we try to coincide with Armed Forces Day. So whatever Armed Forces Day in May is going to be of 2021, that'll be the date of the race.
That makes even better sense.
Yep. We just had to push it back. We didn't want to move to 21. We wanted to at least give it a try, and so far so good.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing you out on course hopefully next year, and early in the year next year I'll reach out to you, and we'll go ahead and do another episode if you'd like, either
Absolutely.
with you or with your partner, and talk about things for 2021.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming on, and when this goes to air, I'll send you a Facebook message probably the morning of, or
Okay.
a couple of days before. It's about a week out, I think, maybe a week and a half out on this one.
Fantastic, Don. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again, Ed. And we'll talk to you later.
All right. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.